Hello everyone and welcome back for the first time in a long time to the DC Universe miniature game by Knight Models. If their Batman game has a niche small audience, then this one has a minute one, but a couple of people have been asking for a little bit of a return to this, and with it being the spooky month, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to bring the Zombified Justice League to the table in full this time rather than just one, and see how things happen. So for the spooky month we're bringing the game back a little bit. It's still a once in a while thing, and it obviously has been 3 months, I think, since it's been on the channel, so expect things to be a little bit rusty, but nevertheless, we're going to play it out today and see how it goes. So let's take a look at the zombies, and then who's going to be facing them down. So as a reminder, the zombified versions of the Justice League are just aesthetic as far as the game mechanics are concerned. They are exactly the same as the stat cards you're using, but they just look like zombies, because they're based on the pretty good comic Deceased. Very surprisingly funny despite it being apocalyptic. So we have Zombie Superman, Zombie Wonder Woman, Zombie Aquaman, Zombie Flash, but just using their basic cards for it. The Superman version is the 16 levels version. Brings everyone all in all to, I think it's either 52 or 54. Both sides are on either side of 53. I just forget which is which. One is 52, one is 54. So that's about as even as we could get it with the models available. They did do another zombie pack with like Deathstroke, Deadshot, sorry, Batman, Joker, Harley. Never picked that up. So these are the zombies we have to work with, so that's why we're working with that slightly odd power level for the match. And sans the Green Lantern himself, well, at least in terms of who's defending Earth, we have the rest of the Green Lantern Corps available for the DC Universe miniature game who are going to be taking on the zombies. Forgot to mention, but as per usual, as we started doing, these D12s at the back here are just going to denote how much power they have left on the table, how much they have to spend, how much they have for defense, and that kind of stuff. It's just a nice aesthetic way to keep track of everything on the table. But let's see if I can remember these guys' names. This is Kilowog, I believe. This is Drew Gardner for sure. This is Chip for sure. And then these two at the back, I don't remember their names. I'm going to have to cheat. This is... I can't reach their card. This is Aricia, which is the lady right there. And finally, it is... I can't read his name. His card is too far away. It's impossible. There's no way. Salak, I think. S-A-L-A-A-K? Yeah, Salak. So they cooperate with each other. They have some buffs that help other Green Lanterns around. And there are some specific special rules we're going to use for the scenario we're playing today. We can talk about that in detail though in a moment once both sides are deployed. So we're all set up and good to go. The Green Lanterns are deployed to the left and the Zombie Justice League are to your right, with the D12s denoting how much power they have to start the game. But we have to cover what we're doing here. We're doing kind of like a custom variant on one of the basic scenarios from the new hardback rulebook. Essentially just to kill each other, but the zombies only get 1 victory point per Green Lantern member taken out, because in general per person they're a bit weaker. For every zombie taken out, the Green Lanterns gain 2 victory points, so their skill ceiling is a bit, or point ceiling is a bit higher, but they're going to have a tougher job because they don't have anyone as powerful as a Superman or a Wonder Woman. So it should hopefully balance out. Now, in this game you're supposed to draw from a bag to see who goes each activation, goes first each turn. Be honest with you, the bag we used to use, the bag of mystery for all the previous videos, it's gone. Don't know where it is. Had a look, could not find it. Do not have an adequate substitute unless you want to use a carrier bag from a shop. So we're just going to roll, and that's not how you're supposed to do it, but unfortunately it's all we have as an option currently. So we're going to do blue is the zombies, grey is the Green Lanterns. Highest number goes first. Well, would you look at that? That's just typical, isn't it? Let's try that again. Okay, there you go. Green Lantern's going first. So the insufferable Chip got the game started. He has a tiny HP pool. I think he has 7 HP? No, 6. He only has 6 HP. But his base defense stats are really, really high. And he's got some tricks he can use to mitigate damage as well. He spent 3 to move 12, his maximum distance, up to here just to be a target, saving himself a whole 6 power to boost his defense, or to use the reactive superpower that all Green Lanterns have. All of them have it, which is Energy Field, to give them resistance 2 to physical and energy attacks till the end of the turn, which just means damage taken gets reduced by that much. Superman has that inbuilt, and so does Aquaman, for the record. First up for the Zombie Justice League was the Flash, and you'll know if you've seen previous episodes in this series, he moves around a lot during his turn, so yes, he ended up right there, which isn't very far from where he started, over above Aquaman there. But he moves a lot in his turn because he has Agile, so he can move twice. He spent 1 to move 10 inches, which put him within 2 of Chip. He then tried to do a boosted attack twice. He tried to do a charge, and Chip boosted his defense for 1 power to buff him up to 20 physical defense. So the charge failed. He then tried to do an empowered, I've forgotten the correct terminology, overloaded, I believe that's what it is, overloaded. A overloaded combo strike that also failed to bust through the squirrel's 20 defense, and as a result he dealt no damage. So then he spent 1 more power to move again because of the agile roll, bounced himself back there and left himself 1 power, which is important for the Flash because if he ever has 0 his defenses drop because he's exhausted. Chip's friend Salak activated for the Green Lanterns, spent 3 to move up 12, which left him 5 power to play with. Now he has a passive, like a lot of these Green Lantern units have passives that help each other. He has a passive where he and any allies within 4 inches pay 1 less power to do abilities, at a minimum of 1. Chip has one where he can kind of be annoying. It's literally called annoying to make it harder to hit friends nearby as well. So he would normally have spent 3 to do an offensive construct, which again is a basic attack all Green Lanterns have essentially. Range 8, energy attack. He boosted it though, so that put it back up to 3. So that gave him 2 power left, which is why he's got 2. He did it on the Flash, and the Flash didn't want to buff his defense, and even if he did, the roll was really good, so it got through for 2 damage. But the Flash has regeneration, so he'll be healing 1 at the top of the next turn. The Zombie Wonder Woman activated, spent 3 to super jump 12 inches, which made her slam down here, gave her 6 power left over. She spent 3 of it to pick up the car here. She can chuck it 10 inches. She chucked it at Arisia over here, and she managed to pass her agility roll. It turns out most of these Green Lanterns have pretty they're all 2 of them have 8, the rest have 10. So they're actually pretty decent at passing those rolls. So she fully dodged it. The car just smashed into the side of the Batmobile. No damage to her. Kilowog activated and spent 2 to move his medium distance of I think it was 7, just in front of the dilapidated police station there. Then he did 3 for an overloaded offensive construct. Get ready for a lot of offensive constructs. It's the Green Lantern's main thing. 8 inches again into Wonder Woman, who did pay 1 power to boost her defense, which I think put it up to 18. However, he smashed it, and 2 of the numbers matched, so that means he critted, so instead of doing 2 damage, it did 3. However, much like the Flash, she also has regeneration, so she'll be healing 1 of that next turn. Oh, and did forget to mention, Kilowog has a very nice passive where he can spend 1 power as a reactive for an ally within 8, I believe it is, to reroll all their attack dice. That doesn't sound like he can use it himself, but it does mean that I think I might have even called him Drew Gardner in the opening. That's not his name, is it? It's Guy Gardner. I don't know where I got Drew Gardner from. Is that a person? Either way, if either of them are within 8 of him, he could maybe spend a couple of that power he's got left over, if assuming he doesn't need it for defense, to give them full rerolls. Second last zombie to activate in turn 1 was Aquaman. He moved forwards right into Salak's face, and then spent a total of 5 power, well, just 5 power flat, on his once per game lightning blast. But he cast it on Chip, or used it on Chip, and it's an explosive range 3, so you have to do an agility test. If you pass it, you take half damage rounding down, and it affects everyone hit by it. So they both managed to pass their agility rolls, so instead of taking 4 damage, they took 2. However, as a reactive, Chip spent 2 of his power on his once per game energy field, giving him resistance 2 to physical and energy, so he actually does resist that 2 damage, and it goes away. But Salak didn't spend his 2 power. With hindsight, he absolutely should have, but no, he took 2 damage. So, second last activation for the Green Lanterns was Guy Gardner, and we have a lot to cover here because he had an amazing turn. He went all out right from the start, but he has a bunch of interlocking rules we have to cover. So he spent 2 to move, I've got his card here, I'm cheating, to move 8, which put him into base-to-base with Zombie Wonder Woman. Now he has heroic action, just as a special rule. So Superman has it. I'm not sure if this Superman has it, but most Supermen have it, where it just means the first attack you do per turn has +1 damage. He also has a constant passive called the Gardener, in which he has +1 damage again, so that's +2 overall, and he gets +1 to his attack stat, making his attacks land easier, but it has a negative. When his turn is over, he is moved 6 inches by the enemy. Either way though, he went into base-to-base with Wonder Woman to do Last Effort, cost him 5 power, left him on 1. It's his once per game, and he spent 6, sorry, because he overloaded it to do push 6, which is why Wonder Woman is now being pushed against the wall back there. The first attempt was a terrible roll, so Kilowog activated his passive or reactive to give Guy rerolls. However, Guy also has a roll called Arrogant, So if someone is going to support him, it costs them 1 extra power. So instead of just costing Kilowog 1, he had to spend everything he had. He spent both. Gave him the rerolls. The second roll was much better. The base damage for last effort is a 6. So with the 2 extra damage on top, he just smacked Wonder Woman with everything he had for ridiculous 8 damage, which is astonishingly good, although he's pretty much given everything he's got now. But that is a really good hit. She passed her stamina roll to stay conscious. She's in the pale part of our health bar. Remember, it goes grey, pale, blue. And in the blue, they can get knocked out at any instant. But she's still standing. Oh, she did spend 1 to buff her energy defense, because Green Lanterns can all select energy or physical for their first attack, or whenever they attack. So she's on her feet, but wow, that was a really, really powerful hit. And here's where Guy ended up after that first 6 inches of movement, much closer to the last zombie who is about to activate, and happens to be a super scary Kryptonian. Well, the table layout never stays the same when there's a Superman on the table. He spent 2 to move up next to the police station, spent 3 to pick it up, and then dropped it on Guy for 6 damage. Then he used a overloaded heat vision for damage, not for the pierce, and it would normally do 2 damage, but he critted, so that did 3. So all in all, Guy took 9 health. He does put him in his pale part of his health bar, but he did stay conscious. So, oh, he is also knocked down, it's worth pointing out, because of the building smacking him in the face. He didn't have enough power to do his energy shield, so he's hurting. So last person to go in the turn was Arisia, and she normally wants to sneak attack. She can get people for extra damage and stop them doing defensive improvements if they can't see her when she starts her turn, but with that building gone, that kind of limited options. She ignored Zombie Superman to go for Wonder Woman because she has been just battered by Guy. So she moved up, did an overloaded offensive construct. It got through her defenses for 2, and then that put her in the blue portion of her health, so she had to do another wake check. She failed it, so we're just going to use that skill to denote she is unconscious, so she's not going to be able to get up until next turn if she survives. So that might give them someone to pile on just to get them off the table. That is the end of battle round 1 though, and with that we'll get everything cleared and be back for battle round 2. So we're all set up for the start of battle round 2. The Flash is healed 1 thanks to his regeneration. However, because she's unconscious, Wonder Woman's regeneration does not kick in. So she is prime target number 1. Power has been distributed to everyone again. They're all topped up. All that remains to be seen is who's going first. And again, no bag of destiny anymore because I can't find it. So it's just a roll. Grey die is the Green Lanterns, and it is them once again taking first activation. So let's see if they can capitalize on it. So Arisia got turn 2 started for the Green Lanterns, and she tried to finish off Wonder Woman. Didn't quite manage it, but it did manage to do quite a bit. She paid 1 to eventually back off, although it doesn't really matter. She did a massive explosion. She did her once per game Power Unleashed, it's called. It is a massive explosion on the point of impact. It's a 5-inch explosion. So unfortunately that means that Guy got caught as well. He passed his agility roll, sorry. So he only took 2 damage from it. Wonder Woman can't because she's unconscious, so she took the full 4. That leaves her on 1 HP remaining. Sadly, she doesn't have enough to do any other kind of attacks, so she's just going to bank that 2 power and hope that someone else chips off that last HP. Well, in order to try and get a turn to recover or do some damage before getting taken out, Wonder Woman tried to activate. She failed her stamina roll to wake up, so she's staying unconscious, which is a great shame because she has Rage 2, which would have countered the negative stats effects or loss of power, 1 for waking up, 1 for standing up. But nope, she doesn't get a turn, and that wastes the activation for them as well. So it's back over to the Green Lanterns. Well, Guy Gardner decided to take advantage of that wasted activation by the zombies and used a Green Blast on Wonder Woman. It would normally do 3 damage, plus 1 for the Gardner roll, plus 1 for heroic action, 5 damage. Zombie Wonder Woman is gone, so that is 2 victory points for the Green Lanterns. He then did an offensive construct overloaded into Superman's face. Superman buffed his energy defense because that was the element he selected, and did not manage to block it. However, he does have resistance 2, so that 3 damage comes down to a mighty 1 damage. He's banking 2 for defense. Zombie Superman activated, and he never even moved. Well, maybe he did, but just too fast to keep up with. He did his once per game super punch, flying punch. It's a range, it counts as a physical attack, but it's actually got range 6 on it, so you don't need to be base to base. And, oh actually I just realised it has stun 3. Oh actually no, that wouldn't have changed anything, we can carry on. So 6 base, he spent 7 to overload it, it got through for 5, however, in attacking him with that, Guy spent his last 2 power at that point to do his once per game energy field to give him resistance 2 against physical and energy. But Superman did land a hit, and its base damage is 5. He then followed that up with a heat vision, base damage 2, and that managed to get through as well. However, because of that energy field, that 2 damage becomes 3, the 5 damage becomes 3, and the 2 damage gets absorbed by the energy field. So all in all, he only took 3 from all that battering, so he's still standing. He's 2 away, or 1 away, sorry. No, he is 2 away. 2 away from his blue zone, so he's getting close to death. And he's burned his once per game super shield. But he managed to take what Superman dished out and stayed standing, so that's pretty impressive. Oh, just as a point of note, Drew did it again. Guy Gardner should have been moved at the end of his turn because of his role, but opted not to bother. Superman didn't want him in base to base so that he could do the follow-up heat vision after doing the super punch, and the super punch didn't need to be base to base. So he wouldn't have moved, so everything happened as it did. Salic activated, paid 1 to get into base to base with Aquaman, then did his once per game tactical hit. 5 cost normally, down to 4, back up to 5 because he overloaded it. Got through with a crit, so actually did the crit get applied? Let me just double check. Base damage 4. Yeah, base damage 4, so the crit did get applied. Hit Aquaman with that, who did boost his defense, but it wasn't enough. However, he does resist 2 of that damage, so it comes down to 3. But the important part is it also has stun 5 on it, which drains 5 more of his power, so he's only got 3 left, which means he can't have much of a turn. So didn't do as much damage obviously because he's resistant to it, but that power drain is pretty decent. Zombie Flash activated, paid 1 to move 10 inches to get close to where Guy was, then spent a total of 6 for an overloaded once per game supermass critical punch. Got him right in the stomach, sent him flying backwards 3 inches into the wall there. Now it would do 4 damage, however his energy field is up for the entire turn, so it gets reduced to 2. Had it hit him for the full 4, it would have left him on 1 health. However, he is in his blue zone, regardless, and he did fail his stamina check to stay awake, or willpower, whichever one it was. Either way, he definitely failed it. So he is unconscious now. I think the energy field still applies to negate the unconscious bonus, or debuff rather, to your defenses, but either way, he's going to die soon. Oh, and then he paid 1 more to move again thanks to Agile, bounced himself back there with 1 power spare. Kilowog spent 3 to move up to get base to base with Zombie Superman, then paid 4 for an empowered grab and throw to chuck the Zombie Superman into Zombie Flash, and he is strength 4, so Superman automatically takes strength -1, 3. However, his damage resistance means it comes down to a paltry 1, and Flash passes agility roll, surprising probably no one because his agility is really high. So he took no damage from the throw either. Bit of a waste of a turn. He's banking 1 power to give somebody rerolls if the chance arises. Well, last zombie to activate for turn 2 was Aquaman, and there was something he could do despite only having 3 power. He spent 2 of it on Sonic Attack, a Kono attack from in front of him. It sprays out in front of him. It's him doing kind of like his Sonic Blast to talk to fish. He hit Salic and Chip with it, and they both just needed to pass an agility roll or take 2 damage. Salic failed it, so he took the full 2. Chip passed it, so he only took 1. Neither of them did well. Chip's already used his damage negation field for the game. Salic did not use it. Again, with hindsight, probably should have, but oh well. So now it's over to Chip, and I think that might be it. Yeah, I think he might be the last one to go. Well, in an effort to try and pick on Aquaman, Chip moved up beside Salic and then did his once per game small power. Even if it had hit through, it would have been reduced down to 1 damage, I believe. But he rolled poorly and was not able to touch him at all. So that is the end of the second turn. Get everyone repowered up and see you at the top of 3. So at the top of turn 3, the Green Lanterns are winning 2-0 thanks to Wonder Woman being removed off the table, but the Flash is healed back to full health now. And it's very, very difficult for them to injure Superman or Aquaman thanks to their damage reduction on physical and energy attacks. So we'll see how it goes. Guy is unconscious, so we'll see if he even gets a turn, but all that remains to be seen is who goes first, and this time it is the zombies, although they are a man down. So, well, 2 down now, so they might choose to pass, we'll see. Well, Zombie Superman got the turn started and he went all out. He tapped his power entirely. He spent to walk into base to base with Kilowog, and then did an overloaded pick up and throw, chucked him, at which point Kilowog used his once per game energy field to give himself resistance 2 to energy and physical. He got chucked into the unconscious Guy, so that would be 5 damage because Superman is strength 6, but the shield he gave himself brings it down to 3. He has resistance 1 naturally, and from what I recall in a previous battle report, they don't stack to a 3. It's just you take whichever one is better. Guy, however, unconscious, obviously couldn't dodge, so he's gone. So that is 1 victory point to the zombies. And then, oh actually, you know what, I can't remember if they were in base to base already. They weren't, were they? Because Superman flew over. Were they in base to base? Or did he need to be in base to base? Let me just check. To do a pick up and throw, he would have had to have been. Because I just realised he moved twice on his turn then. Because he had to move into base to base with Kilowog. I think. Unless they were already in base to base. It's too late to go back, we'll just play on. But I think I moved him twice by accident. Which you can't do unless you have Agile. He would have just punched or shot Guy instead. But what he did was then spent 3 to fly over here. And then did his other once per game for his last 3 power, which is a freeze breath. It hit Aquaman as well. Salik used his once per game energy field, so I think Aducia is the only one who hasn't. So that 2 damage it did goes away to his buff. Chip failed his agility roll, takes the full 2 damage, and Aquaman passed it and took 1 damage. So yeah, I think I did. I don't think they were in base to base, but we'll play on as that happening. But yeah, that might have been wrong. So just further correction, Aquaman didn't take that 1 damage because his resistance would negate the effect as well. Well, he didn't have much power to play with thanks to using Energy Field, but Kilowog activated and he had enough power to walk into base to base with Flash and then do an overloaded grab and throw. Chucked the Flash backwards into that container there. Again, he counts as strength 4, or he is strength 4. And that means the Flash took 3 damage and didn't bother buffing his defense, he just took it. So Zombie Flash activated and paid no attention to Kilowog, paid 2 power to move 15 inches, just zapped himself across the table here. Then did an overloaded once per game bolts attack into Chip. Chip buffed his energy defense, meaning he was at massive 20, but with a roll of 21 on 3d8s, 3 damage got through, and that is Chip, the little fella, sadly removed from the table. So that evens up the score between the two sides now at 2 apiece. The Flash opted to store 3 power for defense. So Salik did the only thing he could do with his turn. Incidentally, I forgot to mention that Chip did try and buff his defense. Oh no, I did mention that, never mind. Either way, Salik pulled away for 1, away from Aquaman because he wanted to do a green blast. Can't do that in point blank range. And that's the only way he can also hurt Superman or Aquaman. He managed to get through. It would do 3 damage, but the resistance they both have brings that down to 1 whole damage. Well, last zombie to activate for the turn. Aquaman paid 1 to get back into base to base with Salik. Then did his basic Trident Strike, I think it's called. Yep, overloaded, irresistible, not that it matters because he doesn't have resistance. And he critted with it, so instead of doing 2 damage, it did 3. Then he followed up with another Sonic attack. Oh, actually, well, yeah, he could angle that so Superman wouldn't be caught, so never mind, yeah. And that also did 2 damage to him. So now, Salik is still very much alive, not in the blue part of his health just quite yet, but he is below half health remaining. Well, last one for the turn for the Green Lanterns and in general was Odysseia. She moved up for 2 to where you can see her, then did an overloaded green blast into the Flash, managed to get a crit. He did pay 1 to buff his energy defense, it did not help. He took a massive 4 damage, that puts him at roughly half health, but he's now at the end of the turn about to go into a new one, he's going to heal 1 of that back. So everyone's powered back up, although some have less. Salik definitely has 1 less now that he's not at the healthy part of his health bar. And we're going to count turn 4 as the final turn. Normally it's at least 6 turns for DC Universe, but if we go that long it's just going to come down to being annoyed by Aquaman and Superman's resistance to physical and energy 2, which is always very tedious. I'm surprised Aquaman has resistance 2, not resistance 1, but there you go. So this is going to be the last chance, or the last turn. If the Green Lanterns are able to gank the Flash, that'll give them 2 points, secure their win, assuming they don't lose at least 2 of their own number to the very scary zombie Superman. So we need to see who's going first in this final turn. Let's see. And it is going to be the Green Lanterns, which is positive for them. They need to do whatever they can to hurt the Flash. So Kilowog spent 2 to move into base to base with the Flash then. I believe he hasn't used his once per game tactical hit yet. So he did that and it did manage to get through for 4 damage despite Flash buffing his physical defense. Puts him at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 health remaining, and on Flash's turn he could literally just speed across the table and hide in a corner, secure a win that way, or secure a draw rather, because they're currently drawing. But that's boring, so we're not going to do that. He is going to fight back, and just have a big old scrap. They could still end up that the zombies manage to take out enough of them that it won't matter either way. But yeah, we're just pointing out he's not going to just run away because that's boring. So Flash activated, moved closer to Salik, but not in base to base because he doesn't need to even for his physical attacks because they have range 1 inch. He charged into him, just face planted him against the wall for 2 damage, then tried to do a follow-up combo strike, and that didn't manage to get through his defense, which he did boost for that attack. So he did 2. He does have 1 power left. Technically, again, he could use that to move 10 inches, and he just phases through walls, so he could technically just run away. That would give him the debuff, and he could still get caught, of course. But, well, you know what? He might as well. Just phase shift through the wall. I'll measure correctly in a second to move him 10 inches in that direction. It does mean if anyone does manage to get over to him, he will be lower defenses, but maybe that's the best bet. Well, Salik seized this opportunity and hopped over the wall. Well, flew over. All the Green Lanterns can fly, so they're not hindered by stuff like that. Flew over the wall, landed there, and shot a green blast into the Flash's back. He counts his -1 to all his defenses because he's exhausted. Got him for 3, put him in his his blue zone, and he did fall unconscious. He's still alive with 2 HP remaining though, which means Arisia needs to get over there and try and finish him off, but not before a zombie activates. Well, Zombie Superman flew in there as well. I love the mental image of him just smashing down between Salik and the Flash and being like, we're not done yet. When it was in base to base with him, paid for an empowered pick up and throw, chucked him out, broke his back on the wall here for 5 damage. That is enough that Salik is out of there. So the zombies are currently winning 3-2, but if Arisia is able to take the Flash out, it will have to be with a green blast. If she's able to do that, they'll win on the assumption that Aquaman can't take someone out, which I don't think he can. So it really comes down to this next activation. So Arisia flew up the table 12 inches and then did a range 8 green blast. Overloaded it, and it did manage to get the Flash, Zombie Flash. So he is out of there for 2 points. Now Aquaman still has an activation. The absolute most he could possibly do in a turn would be, well, 2 damage and 2 damage, but on the assumption both were crits, he could do 6 damage in total in 1 turn. That's not enough to kill Arisia or Kilowog. So we can end the game there, but that's only because we're ending on a turn 4. Superman and Aquaman, if we were going to a normal turn 6, could just absolutely whittle them down just by abusing how much damage they both do from throws. But that's tedious, especially when at most they can do 1 damage a time to them, thanks to resistance 1 and 2, resistance 2 to physical and energy. It's a very, very powerful, very thematic in Superman's case. Kind of surprised Aquaman has the same level of resilience, but still fun nevertheless. But we're going to call it here with a sort of barely Green Lantern's victory, 4-3. So even though there's still 2 angry zombies on the table somewhere, here are sort of winners today. The sole survivors of the Green Lantern massacre at the hands of zombies of the Antique Life equation. But hopefully that was still enjoyable. We don't play this game a lot, so very liable to get things wrong. I'm pretty sure on 1 turn Superman moved twice, which he's not allowed to do. But it is just for fun, once in a while, to come back and just chuck buildings around and all that good stuff that this game allows you to do. It certainly makes the strong characters feel strong, but it also does mean that some characters just feel utterly insignificant. Like, I don't think the Green Lanterns have anyone in their roster who could stand up to Superman, really, or anyone with similar kind of defensive roles. Maybe the new Green Lantern. I never got that one, so I don't know what stats he has. Probably not though, because they all have very, very similar stats. They need a heavy hitter to take out a heavy hitter, essentially, which they can bring in, to be fair. But this was just to test out the Green Lantern Corps by themselves. Either way, for those of you who were clamouring for a DC Battle Report after like 3 months, I hope you enjoyed this one despite any mistakes, and maybe see you next time for another one. And thank you for watching, those of you who did. If you want to support the channel, please press the thanks button or consider becoming a channel member or a Patreon supporter. Enjoy the rest of your day, and ta for now.